It's not going to make any difference to most people's lives. I mean, this is nonsense. Unless you want to start advocating secession from China, which will become illegal, it's not going to make any difference to you. This will certainly affect the activities of the rioters, but most people who want to get on with their living, or they want to make a complaint that the housing costs is too high, because there are some legitimate problems in Hong Kong, which is, I think the inequality is too great. I think the housing costs are too high. And I'm sure that some people have therefore got some legitimate complaints in this situation. The problem is that they're being misused by people who have a quite different political agenda. For most people, this law is going to make virtually no difference at all. Macau already has a national security law passed some years ago, and there's no great problems going on in Macau. People seem to be in Macau, they're running the casinos and making money and that type of thing. So unless you want to engage in anti-China political activity in Hong Kong, truthful, this law is not going to make any significant difference to you. Well, again, it's got nothing to do with this law. It's the United States has been attempting to carry out an economic attack on China for some time. It started with the trade war, but now the situation has got much more serious because you have a terrible situation in the United States. As I said, you have 100,000 deaths. This is a catastrophe. This is more people than were killed in the American people that were killed in the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Iraq War, and the Afghanistan War put together. Therefore, this is going to have terrible consequences from the thinking of the people in the United States. It's absolutely vital for the US political establishment to conceal who was responsible from this disaster. Because if it was known that the truth, which is that it's the Trump administration and the US political establishment, which led to 100,000 deaths, and I'm afraid it's not going to stop at 100,000, it's going to go above that. There would be a total crisis of political legitimacy in the United States. The American people would rightly say, who has led us into this disaster? What can be done about this? So this is all an attempt on both all this attacks, this nonsense to claim that the virus was created in a laboratory in Wuhan, which not one single serious medical expert in the world has supported. All these claims about Hong Kong, they're all attempts to divert attention from who is responsible for this terrible deaths in the United States. I feel sorry for the American people. I'm not trying to be polite. That's my real view. Their political leadership has led to more than 100,000 of them dying. Therefore, it's vital for this leadership to divert attention from the real situation in the United States. So therefore, they go on in situations in Hong Kong on which nobody has died. I mean, not one single person has been killed by the US police. There are 100,000 people dead in the United States. There is 0 people dead in Hong Kong. But apparently the big human rights problem is in Hong Kong, not in the United States. This is ridiculous. The real big human rights issue at the present time in the world is all the people who are dying in the United States. And that's what the Trump administration is desperate to conceal from people. I mean, I think because I work in a Chinese institution, I'm rather in contact with the situation in China. I think the Chinese people begin to understand how lucky they were. I mean, it would mean in the scale of China, if you take the proportion to population, more than 400,000 people would be dead in China now in proportion to the population of the United States. The Chinese people were saved from hundreds of thousands of deaths by the actions of the Chinese government and by the Chinese Communist Party. And the United States administration is desperately attempting to conceal this by producing this ridiculous situation about Hong Kong in which 0 people have been killed despite very violent rioting. There would have been, as I say, there would be many people dead in the United States if they had similar riots in a US city. It's one of the clearest examples of the absurdity of the United States' positions on human rights. I imagine it will make life more difficult for them. But I'm not very concerned about that. I mean, the people who are in Hong Kong, who are leading the rioters, have quite open relationships with leaders of the American Congress, uh, senators. They receive financial support from them. They receive political support from them. They also have links with the separatists in Taiwan, and they don't dare to put forward their political agenda openly in the situation in Hong Kong. But anyone who reads the media can work it out very easily what it is. I imagine the national security law will make it more difficult for these people, which is entirely what it's intended to do. Why should they be able to conceal what is their real political agenda from the people of Hong Kong?